Hi, this is Susan Campfield with SueStampfield.com. Today we're going to make this adorable little penguin box, so let's go ahead and get started. So to make our cute little penguin here, we're going to use a number of dies and punches to create this little guy. It's pretty easy to do, so let's go ahead and pull in some of those products. So for the shape, the outside and inside of my penguin, I used a new product. These are only available in August of 2018 here. These are from Stampin' Up! And they're called the Stitched Seasons Framelit Dies. And you get a whole set of dies here, including these label shapes. And so we're going to use those for our project today. I can show you just quickly here. One of the advantages about these dies are that when you cut them out, you get the stitching around the edges, but it's got double stitching. So the piece you cut it out of also has stitching on it, which gives you a nice frame to use for another project, and then your shape that you cut out. So the set of dies cuts out all of these shapes, and one of the shapes matches a stamp set. And we're going to use that for the back of our box for that Merry Christmas greeting right there. So this is the Blended Seasons stamp set, and today we're just using the Merry Christmas. So I've got my Big Shot in place here, and I've got my platform down and a cutting pad, and I'm going to start by using the frame dies here, or label shapes. And I'm actually going to use all three for this project, so I'm going to pull those out. And I'm also going to pull off the bow here. Those are the dies that I used to make the penguin. So I went ahead and cut out of a quarter sheet of black cardstock, 5.5 by 4.25, the large label to make the base of my penguin. And I'm going to cut with the middle label die the tummy for the penguin. And I'm just going to take a minute to line this up and make sure I'm centered, because as I mentioned earlier, I want to be able to use that leftover frame that's going to have the cute stitching on it for another project. So let me go ahead and crank this through. And so you can see it cut some stitching in a nice frame, so I'll use that for a card or another project. Set that aside. But this is the piece I want to use for my penguin's tummy. So you can see it's got the stitching on both sides and a cutting blade in between. So that's how it does the stitching on both. Really cleverly designed. So you can see when we layer these together, that's going to start forming our penguin. Before I move the Big Shot here, I want to cut a couple of one other item and then do some embossing as well. So you can see he's got this cute little bow. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of real red cardstock and I've added some of the multi-purpose adhesive sheets to that paper. So that is just, when I peel this backing off, that's all going to be sticky. So when I adhere that very delicate little bow, I don't have to worry about getting glue on there and making a mess, because it's already going to be sticky for me. So I'm just going to lay the bow on here and send it through. So here we've got our bow, and we're going to poke that out. Now I'm going to use my paper piercer here just to use the little ejection holes. Where are they? Oh, here's the camera. Right here we've got a little, so wait till we focus here for a second. So we've got the little ejection holes right here, and that's how I'm going to poke out my bow. Now for right now, I'm not going to worry about getting all of the pieces out, because when I peel that backing off, those pieces are going to stick to the backing, and I don't need to bother to poke it all out at this time. For this project, I also used the Layering Oval Framelit dies. The larger one is for the beak, and the smaller one is for the inside of the mouth. I also used that second from the smallest die, the same one I used for the beak, to cut out 2 wings for my penguin. So one more thing before I put the Big Shot away, I'm actually going to do some embossing here. So I'm going to remove the thin die adapter so that I just have the Big Shot platform here, and it shows me that that's what I use for embossing. And I'm going to pull in the striped scallop embossing folder. This is a new folder from Stampin' Up! And it's 6x6. So put my bottom plate down. Now the newer folders have kind of a cool feature. They have a line on them so that it makes it much easier to keep your pieces straight when you're embossing. That's not important on every folder, but when it's got lines on it like this folder, I don't want my embossed pieces to be crooked, so that line is going to be really helpful. I'm going to flip it over so that the front is down and I can see that line. And I'm going to just lay my pieces of cardstock on here. Because it's a nice 6x6 folder, I can actually do both pieces at the same time. So I've got my pieces lined up with that line that's on the folder so that I know that they're straight. And now I'm going to go ahead and send that through. So I've got my two embossed pieces here, and let's talk about the box now. So I'm going to pull the box in. This is the Gable box from Stampin' Up, and it's lustrous white. And so I'm going to pull it in here. Can you see that fun shimmer on there? Really pretty. Adds a little very subtle sparkle to the box, which is perfect for our little penguin here. Now inside this box I've got some candy. It's a little hard to find Christmas candy in August, but I did put these puffy mints in there because if they're red and white, they just matched perfectly with my project. So we have two more things we need, and that's a pair of eyes and a pair of feet. And so for those, I used punches. I used the wonderful cookie cutter punch to get my eyes. So let's open this up, grab a scrap of black cardstock. I'm going to punch out the two largest eyes right there. And then I use the Blossom Builder punch. I love this punch. I use it a lot, rarely for flowers. I actually use it for a lot of different things. But today I used this larger petal for the feet on my penguin. So I punched those out of pumpkin pie cardstock, and those are ready to go. So I've got my feet and my beak, which again are from pumpkin pie, and then red for the inside of the mouth and the bow, real red. And then we've got our basic black with our wings and our eyes and the back of the penguin, and then whisper white for the tummy. And then these two panels are just to decorate the sides of the box. So the three dies here, we used the large and the medium for the body of the penguin, but I did actually also use the smallest one. And how I used that was on the label on the back. So can you see my Merry Christmas? Do you see how it's rounded on the edges and stitched there? How I did that is I just took my Merry Christmas and I laid the die right on top of it, and I just centered it right inside my Big Shot and sent that through. This die makes great labels just by using a narrow piece of cardstock. So I also could have done it this way if I wanted the two ends to have points on them. And again, it's also going to have that stitching because when I send it through, it'll put the stitching in. So that's how I did the Merry Christmas on the back. All right, it's time to put our penguin together. So cute. So we've got our little penguin, and we're just going to add that bow. So if you remember, we put the multi-purpose adhesive sheets on the back of that. So I'm just going to lift up that edge and peel off that backing. And like I said, all those little pieces are going to fall out. And you can see the sticky adhesive that's on that bow. And that's just going to go right below his beak here. His or her beak. And then I'm going to bring in this little fun gable box. Stampin' Up! Also carries these in silver, but we're going to use the lustrous white today because I love that little sparkle. And then we're just going to attach these pieces right here. So I'm going to actually use tear and tape for that. These are quite lumpy because of the, oops, I almost did the wrong side. There is no wrong side, I guess. So you can either do it debossed like this, or with the stripe raised up. And I'm going to do, just because my sample is that way, I'm going to do with the stripe raised up. So this is the tear and tape adhesive. And because that embossed piece is so lumpy, this is going to give me really good adhesion to my box, so it won't fall off, which is what I'm going for. So now all we need to do is put our box together. It's very easy to put together. I like to put the this piece first, that I almost call the goal post piece, in first. Then I put in the two interlocking ends, and then I push this piece down, which has this tab on it, and that slides in there, and that gives you a secure bottom to your box. So now all we need to do is close up our box, and then adhere our penguin to the front and our greeting to the back. To adhere the penguin, I'm going to use dimensionals. So these are the dimensionals, and I'm actually going to put them on the box itself so that I don't have any exposed dimensionals. If I put them back on the back of the penguin, it's hard to see if they're going to show or not. So we're just going to pull these off. And then now we're going to adhere our penguin. And you want to make sure that the feet and the tummy don't hang below the box so that it will still sit flat for you. And then again, the last step is to just add the greeting on the back. I also used dimensionals to adhere that. And then I used the cotton ribbon in Real Red to make a bow, and I also attached that with a mini dimensional right on top. So that's how we make our fun little penguin box. Thank you so much for joining me today. Additional details are on my website at www.suestampfield.com.